I used to live in a haunted house near White Bear Avenue in St. Paul, Minnesota. If most of you don't know, this street is a very busy place that has a lot of Hmong-owned businesses and stores. It's a popular place where Hmong families come to do their shopping. My family moved into this particular home when I was still a young child, around the age of 8 or 9 years old. At the time, it was me, my older brother Vay, my baby sister Mai, and my parents. All of us lived in this 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. My brother and I shared a room while my sister slept with my parents. Over the years, we have encountered a lot of paranormal activity. Some of them were strange, while others were outright creepy. Here are some of the stories that I have to share. Our house was built a long time ago and had multiple families move in and out of it. Like any old house, we would hear and see strange things around the place. However, these events did not occur frequently for us to really take notice or be concerned. I think they would only happen once every few months or even just on one single occasion. Because of this, we just kind of lived with it. Occasionally, the doors in the hallway would shut themselves without anybody touching them. Sometimes, the bathroom sink would turn on by itself and we would have to turn it off. Once in a while, you might hear the sounds of footsteps walking in the empty hallway in the middle of the night when everyone is asleep. I remember my brother telling me how he saw somebody in the bathroom after he finished taking a shower. He said it looked like a white lady who quickly passed the mirror and into the wall. Then, it wasn't until years later that my mom told us how she thought she saw me playing outside in the backyard. While she was doing dishes, she looked out of our bay window and saw me playing in the dirt. After she turned away and looked back, she noticed that I was gone. These events were nothing major that scared our family, and we tended to just ignore them. However, there were some particular incidents that I remember fondly. Here's the first one. A few years after we moved into the house, my older brother had this creepy monkey doll that he won at school. It was about the size of a small baby, and it wore a red shirt with a smile on its face. The problem with this doll was that it would disappear and reappear in different spots around the house. In one instance, I remembered my mom telling me to get off the TV to wash the dishes. The doll was placed in the living room facing the TV. When I got back after washing the dishes, the monkey's head was facing towards me as I entered the living room. This frightened me as I clearly remembered it facing the television. I didn't want it anywhere near me while I was watching the TV, so I brought it to the kitchen where it sat at the dining table. After pressing the power button on the remote, I turned to my right, where I saw the doll sitting with its back against the wall, looking up at me. I ran down the hallway and entered my room, too afraid to see what the doll might do. The next morning when I woke up, the doll was still in the last place where I saw it, sitting up against the wall. I asked my older brother Vang if he did that, and he said no. It was there when he got home from his friend's house late at night. I never told my family about that experience. Another issue we had with the doll was that my baby sister Mai would always cry whenever she saw the thing. She really disliked the monkey being around her and would turn away from it. One night, while my parents were sleeping, they woke up to my baby sister crying hard. They thought she had fallen off the bed or they had somehow squashed her when my father saw a familiar shadow in the dark. As his eyes adjusted, he noticed that it was the outline of the doll, sitting at the end of their bed. Its smile seemed to grow larger. My mom got a hold of my sister, and my dad got up to throw the doll out into the hallway. The next day, my dad took the doll and threw it away somewhere on his way to work. He told us that he samundozhong, meaning he abandoned it someplace far away from our house. We were afraid that the doll may somehow find its way back to our home, but surprisingly, that didn't happen. Instead, something worse took its place. My brother was a bit of a troublemaker and always went out and came home late at night. My parents would always scold him to stop going out, but he never listened. It wasn't until this experience that he finally gave up on his bad habit of wandering around. One day, Vang and his two friends were cruising around in the countryside in his buddy's old Civic hatchback. As they were driving down the road, they saw this old abandoned farmhouse with a wraparound porch just a little off of the main road. Being the dumb teenagers that they were, the trio made the impulsive decision to check the place out. I guess they thought that they were tough and it was still daytime, so they weren't scared. They stepped onto the porch and unlocked the front door, entering into the hallway. The whole place was a mess and there was junk thrown all over the place. In front of them was a long hallway with a stairwell to the left leading upstairs. On the first floor, they went through the living room and kitchen, rummaging through the trash where they found empty cans and signs that a family used to live there. As they were walking around, the group heard heavy footsteps creaking from the floor above them. They suddenly stopped and looked up at the ceiling where they noticed the floorboards moving as if pressure was being placed onto the planks. Curious, the three of them slowly made their way to the bottom of the staircase. The boys called out to see if there was anyone up there, but they didn't receive a response. Young and stupid, they convinced my brother Vang to go and check it out. At first, he didn't want to, but they told him to go see what it was and that they'll wait for him at the bottom of the stairs to follow him up. My brother slowly crept up the stairs to see what it could be. He reached the top of the stairs and motioned for his friends to follow. The two friends were coming up the steps when, out of nowhere, they heard the sounds of loud footsteps sprinting from the end of the hallway coming towards them. In a panic, they all ran down the stairs and out the front door. The boys actually ended up jumping down multiple steps and breaking the floorboard, tumbling outside. As they all turned around, the front door suddenly shut by itself and the group got in their car and drove off. For the next few weeks, our house suddenly had a spike in paranormal activity. There was one night, as I was sleeping in my room, when I suddenly woke up to the sound of the doorknob jiggling. I sat up in bed and nudged my older brother to wake up, but he continued to sleep. Eventually, the sound stopped, and the doorknob slowly turned as the door started to open by itself. Not wanting to find out what was on the other side, before the door fully opened, I threw the blanket over my head and hid under the covers. I stayed like this until I fell back asleep and woke up the next day. When I did, the door was closed and my brother was still sleeping. I wasn't sure if I was just dreaming that night, but I definitely remember the door opening. I assumed that perhaps my parents had closed it that morning when they woke up before me, so I just went on about my day. As I began to reflect upon it, these paranormal occurrences happened a lot when I was around my brother. There was a time when we were eating in the kitchen and the shelves would open up by themselves. Or if we were doing homework, our backpacks would make noises like someone was going through our pencils and binders. These activities then began to escalate into visual hallucinations. Once in a while, you'd see a black shadow at the corner of your eye or something dart quickly behind a door. The scariest thing I encountered was during one evening when I was doing the laundry. Our laundry and dryer machine were located in the basement. To get to them, you had to walk down these wooden steps that had a gap in between each of them. With the laundry basket in my arms, I carried it down the stairway and into the basement. As I was tossing in the laundry, I heard what sounded like bare feet quickly walking on the concrete floor. I turned around to see what it was, but there was nothing there. Scared, I quickly started tossing the laundry in, not sorting out the darks and lights, and turned on the machine. I sprinted up the stairs, and just as I was about to reach the top, a cold set of hands grabbed my ankle, causing me to trip and fall. I turned around to see an old set of hands with black nails coming out from below the gap. This caused me to scream at the top of my lungs. My parents came to see what happened, and they also saw the same pair of hands gripped tightly around my ankle. They helped pull me up as I kicked and kicked the hands off of me. After a few minutes, I managed to be freed with my mom closing the door behind me. The most shocking thing was the red marks in the shape of a hand with long fingers wrapped around my ankle. This was the last straw, and my parents finally decided to consult a shaman. They scheduled a time the following weekend for the shaman to come and bless the place. For the next few nights leading up to the event, I had the worst time of my life. Almost every night, I would have sleep paralysis where a tall entity would come and chase me throughout the house in my dreams. There was one night where I woke up and saw a dark shadow crouched in the corner of my room. I got scared and screamed, waking up my entire family. When my parents rushed in to see what it was, by the time they got there, it was already gone. Because of this, we all slept in the same room with my parents until the day of the Onmeng. About 2 days before that Saturday, when we were supposed to have that ceremony, the shaman called my dad. He explained that he could no longer do the ritual for us anymore as his powers are not strong enough against whatever entity is in our home. He wished us luck and told us that there might be another shaman out there who can help our family. This worried our family greatly, as now we had no one else to turn to. My dad told our extended family about this and canceled the event that weekend. I remember overhearing him talking to my uncles on the phone about finding a new shaman who could help us. For now, our family had to live in fear with whatever it was that resided in what was once our home. For the next few weeks, a lot of the paranormal activity was directed towards my older brother and I. We would see shadows and strange figures in and outside of the house. There was one night when my older brother saw something tall standing outside in the front yard of our house next to the large oak tree. He said that he saw it in passing and remembered how tall it was, almost reaching the branches of the tree. On one occasion, after I finished showering, I discovered strange symbols drawn on the bathroom mirror. The fog from the mirror revealed these strange marks that looked to have been drawn with a finger. Not only so, but in some instances, we would be locked out of our rooms and our dad would have to come and unlock the doors. He had to always carry the keys around with him in case these things happened. During this time, the basement was completely off limits. No one ventured down there, and we did laundry at a local laundromat down the street. Being inside of that house felt like it was hard to breathe. It was also during this time that my parents started to argue a lot more. They would fight over small things that they used to never argue about. These arguments got worse and would escalate into screaming matches where my brother and I would have to take our little sister and stay in the bedroom. Eventually, the supernatural activities took a turn for the worse when it started to target our baby sister Mai. She had just started to learn how to talk and began to describe to us how she'd see the tall lady standing over our beds every night. We asked her how she looked, and Mai explained how she had long black hair that came down to her shoulders, and how the lady had a big nose with sharp teeth. The ghost, or whatever it was, never wore any clothes and liked to scare Mai. I remember one weekend when my brother and I were home alone with Mai when something terrifying happened. We were in the living room watching TV, and my little sister was playing with her toys. One of her toys rolled out into the kitchen, so she went to grab it. I waited for her to come back, but she didn't return, so I called out her name. Mai didn't respond to my calls, so I got worried and went to see what happened. I got up from the sofa and peeked my head over to see Mai standing there, looking into the hallway that led to our rooms. She had her toy in her hand but was focused on something in the darkness. I asked her what she was doing, and she turned to look at me, then pointed into the darkness. I hurried over to see what she was pointing at and looked into the hallway. To this day, nothing will match what I saw in that hallway. There was a head peeking out at me from my bedroom just a little below the doorframe. It had long black stringy hair and a large hooked nose. I could see rows of sharp teeth grinning at me as it stared at me with its pitch-black eyes. I picked up Mai and ran back into the living room, telling Vang that we needed to leave. He was asking why, and I told him that I saw something in the hallway, so we ran out the door and went out into the street. It was still light outside, so my brother and I decided to just sit in the yard until my parents got home. That was our original plan, but things didn't go as well as we would have liked. As I was holding on to my older brother turned back towards our house. He just stood there, and I asked him what he was doing. This was when I turned around to look at the house and spotted the thing at our window. It was waving at us from the inside of our house, standing at the living room window. I jumped at the sight of the monster, and my brother told me we had to go. With nowhere to run, we took our little sister with us to our next-door neighbor's house. They were a nice elderly white couple who we talked to a few times. They opened the door and Vang asked if we could wait inside while our parents came home. The look on their face seemed like they were concerned, and they allowed us to stay in their living room. I remember the old lady serving us some sugar cookies with milk. This was the first time we were in their house, and the first thing I noticed were the decorations. There was a crucifix of Jesus in their living room, and they had religious items throughout the house. We had family members who went to church, so I recognized some of these things, but this couple seemed very devoted. The couple asked us if we were okay and if anything happened. My brother and I looked at each other and weren't sure if they were going to believe us. We told them that our parents went out to a family member's event and weren't sure when they were supposed to be back. The lady could tell that we weren't telling the full story, and she told us that it was okay, and that we could tell her what happened. She said that she noticed the look on our face when they opened the door to us. It looked like we were afraid of something. After some time, my brother decided to explain to her about what we saw. Simply put, he told her that there was something evil in our home and it chased us out. After some silence, the old couple told us that true evil exists on this earth, and that what we have in our house might be a powerful demon. They said that they believed us, as their family had encountered things like this before, and suggested that a priest or exorcist might be able to help our family. It was then that we saw our parents' car pull up into the street, to which we thanked the couple and ran out to our home. They were surprised to see us at the neighbor's house and asked why we were there. My mom asked if we were embarrassed to be bothering them and told us not to do it again. Vang was about to explain what happened when the old couple came out and told my parents about the situation. This made my mom and dad very worried for us, and they thanked our neighbors for letting us in. My parents cleared the house and didn't find anything out of the usual. That night, I couldn't really sleep at all. My dad and my brother slept with a Hmong knife under their pillows in case anything happened. That following day, my dad and uncles were able to get a shaman from Wisconsin to come and help. The shaman was a lady from Sheboygan, and she accepted my family's request. Supposedly, she is very gifted and strong, so they scheduled the oneng to happen that weekend. Despite this turn in events, our family was not prepared for the horror that was going to occur in our home. It really made me believe that true evil really exists out there.